Hello, star players. So today I'm doing something a little bit different. I am here in my work office, but you can't beat the lighting here. So I decided to record a message. I'm going to start a new series called Straight from the Star, which is a play on the concept of speaking straight from the heart. As you know, everything with CCC involves the cosmos, the constellations, the stratosphere. So this is just my cute and creative way of working in that theme, but then allowing a different content bucket of videos that are just me, no guests, as you all know from following the Star Player Spotlight podcast. Every episode there is me talking to a guest who is using the affirmation cards, doing wonderful things in the world, but there's so much more to CCC and me that I can offer. So this is just step one into that journey of coming and giving you uplift and encouragement, the same uplift and encouragement that you rely on each week with the newsletter, each month with our blog, and of course, whenever I'm publishing our Star Player Spotlight podcast episodes. So today I listened to a podcaster that I follow, Billy Carson. You may have seen me mention him several times in our newsletter publications. If you've attended any of my workshops or speaking engagements, I also speak about Billy Carson. He is an intelligent person, a wonderful thought leader. And in this podcast episode that I listened to, he talked about this concept of a group of fleas in a jar. And this was really a way to illustrate how limiting beliefs can set us back for an entire lifetime if they go unchecked. So, of course, I am all ears, attention perked, because this is the line of work that I'm in. My line of business is all about addressing, acknowledging, accepting and shifting any limiting self beliefs, because that is often our biggest thing that's holding us back. So, back to this illustration of fleas in a jar. So, this scientist did an experiment where we know that a flea can jump from the carpet up to your shoulder. A flea can jump these enormous heights in comparison to their body size and weight. They can kind of defy nature with the heights that they can jump. The scientists put a group of fleas into a jar, and naturally, there's a limitation on how high they can jump. After a while, the scientists removed the top of the jar, and guess what? Those fleas who have the natural ability to jump, you know, 5 feet in the air or more, would not jump past where they were accustomed to the top of the jar being. And I thought that's so interesting. That's so interesting. This is a really wonderful way of illustrating exactly how negative self talk can create that theoretical or figurative ceiling on what we believe our capabilities are to succeed, to pursue our goals. If many of you have been following me when I was still doing the career consulting, those negative self beliefs are something that I observed all the time when getting my clients ready for interviews at their dream companies or going after these big opportunities in their career. The number one thing that was stopping them was never their resume, was never their skills as an interviewee, or their ability to speak to their accomplishments. It was always their confidence, struggling with these feelings of, am I worthy of this opportunity? And that's what this flea example illustrates. Another really powerful example to help those who've never heard of the concept of learned helplessness. I think that it's really, really helpful to look at it in terms of the animal world, and then we'll narrow it back down. So just stay with me. To how this correlates to human nature. So another example, which I was familiar with, I've seen this illustration many times before, and I'll drop it here in this video, is the image of an elephant, a baby elephant, who is tethered via a chain to this stake in the ground, a pole in the ground. And it's a baby elephant. So naturally, this pole is enough to restrict that elephant's movement as a baby. That same elephant, if we can imagine 5, 10 years later, it's massive. It weighs 1,000 pounds. It could snap this chain as well as the pole that it's attached to with very little effort and a lot of ease. However, because the learned helplessness, that learned limitation that it internalized as a baby of, because I have this chain to my ankle, there's no way I can ever break free of this current environment, this current situation. Even as a 1,000 pound elephant years later, it still won't even attempt to break the chain. Whereas we all know the physics of it clearly indicate that this elephant could be free and off running in pastures with its elephant friends. That is what learned helplessness is in essence. It's this idea in psychology that limiting beliefs that are often adopted when we're young because that's where our mindset is not necessarily finalized, but that certainly sets the foundation. The environment you grew up in, the people that spoke life into you or spoke otherwise into you, as many of us have experienced the opposite of having adults who were a safe place to be or encouraging or speaking life. Those talk tracks and those messages take root and they sometimes stay there lying dormant. You don't even understand yourself why you're hesitant to pursue better opportunities. And sometimes it's more subtle or covert, but then oftentimes the messages are reinforced not only throughout childhood, but as you stay connected to the people that you grew up with and that kind of formulated your initial ideas about the world, they're reinforced years and years and years, decades later, to where you accept them as truth, you accept them as reality, you accept them as the sum total of your potential. So I'll give you a specific example. Growing up, my father, he's a black man, he's born in 1960, so he's raised in the 60s in the deep South, Louisiana. There was a clear world where black people could do certain things and the world of what white people are able to achieve was absolutely cut off from what black people had the capability to achieve. And so how did he pass this, what was his clear reality when he was growing up in the Jim Crow South era? How did this translate to him as a father? Well, there were moments in time throughout childhood where he would say outright, that's not what black people do. They don't let black folks do things like that. And that could be, it would range from anything to living in a nice house in a fancy neighborhood, or going to college out of state, or pursuing opportunities, securing funding. The list goes on, and there was never any kind of concrete, like, here are chiseled on a scroll the things that black people are allowed to do. But in his world growing up, for safety and survival reasons, black people just didn't venture off and do things. It was safer to stay within the confines of what is the norm for black people. If any of you know me, you have to know that I am here where I am today because I absolutely shattered that mindset. And I talked to my father. Fast forward now, I expressed to him an understanding of where he was coming from, but then also open his eyes to the new world order, the new regime, the new reality that black people can experience because of all the progress. Now, I'm not saying that to say that he was completely barking up the wrong tree. That's not true at all. There are still so many limitations on us as a black community, but not nearly the amount that he experienced as someone growing up in the 60s. So that's just my personal connection to and passion as to why I feel so strongly about breaking this habit of learned helplessness. So, you remember our illustration with the elephant of from a baby, he learned that the extent of his freedom was the length of this chain. As an adult, still range of motion is the length of that chain. How do you push past learned helplessness? That is where our line of work comes in. That's where CCC comes in via affirmations. So if the initial onset of these limiting beliefs came from negative talk tracks or even people speaking out of outdated um, norms of society of the time, which is the example I gave about my dad just now. You'll need an anecdote that comes in the form of talk tracks, words, messaging to reverse that initial issue of learned helplessness. So affirmations are a wonderful way of doing that. So whereas I may go up for an opportunity and the automatic programming in my mind will be my dad's voice saying, they don't let black folks do that. Affirmations is how I rewire and rewrite the code in that moment. So I would say something like, pulling from our affirmation card deck, I am strong, capable, and confident. That is going to cancel out, especially if I have that willpower, determination, and ambition to pursue whatever this opportunity is that I may have been taught in the past is not, in the script for or in the cards for black people. I say something like, I'm strong, capable, and confident. That rises above my skin color. Another affirmation for blowing past learned helplessness: bravery is my only option. So it's easy to let fear stop you from pursuing an opportunity. Let's say it's applying for a grant or applying for a role at your dream company. If you adopt the mindset that being scared is not an option and that bravery is your only option, you can just feel the vibration of those words start to cancel out, and all of those kind of darker negative thoughts that may be running automatic of your programming, you can kind of feel them disseminating. You can say, no, 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 no. In every situation, I'm going to choose bravery. I'm going to be a courage enthusiast because that's what a star player is. Another affirmation for getting out of that learned helplessness kind of mindset is, each day liberation is rushing my way. So we think about that elephant that's ball and chained to this stake in the ground and has been for quite some time. If we can convince that elephant that freedom and liberation is just on the other side of the applied pressure, for lack of better words, or applied strength that it takes to get to snap this stake and snap that chain, then that gives us hope. That gives us something to look forward to. So the 3 affirmations I shared here, of course, we have 50 plus in our deck, CCC Tiny Book of Affirmations. This is available on our website, Shopify, TikTok Shop. We're selling them in quite a few places. But that's just 3 of the affirmations that I thought would be absolutely helpful for anybody that is struggling to move beyond the old code, the old programming, the old talk tracks that live rent free in your head that tell you you can't do it, that you're not worthy, that this opportunity doesn't belong to people like you. That's just 3. Affirmations overall are a wonderful way of helping you to realize your own potential, your own. Essentially, affirmations are a tool for rewriting your destiny and being an author of your story, because you had to be receptive and susceptible to so many narratives, most of which you did not select throughout childhood, that take root and show up in ways that you're not even consciously aware of. Affirmations puts you back into the driver's seat and allows you to have that say so when it comes to your life and what you're capable of. So if this was helpful to you, I'm going to do more content like this, especially as I'm getting inspired. I said to myself, I need to take my own advice and apply that to my business. Why wait to sit down with a guest on a podcast to then bring up the concept of learned helplessness? It would be amazing to see how some of the entrepreneurs or artists or the people the career professionals that I interview use this concept or heal past this concept, but I could also do that just me. So I appreciate everybody for watching this and tuning in. Please comment if you want to see more content like this. And as always, if you are in a situation where you are struggling with this helplessness, but you're not sure, you've given affirmations a try and just nothing's moving the needle, I also offer one-to-one consultation sessions. You can book this on my website. They're called Manifest the Mission with Me, and it's all about sitting down, understanding what are your limiting beliefs when it comes to pursuing this opportunity, starting this business, launching this project, what have you, and then we'll develop custom affirmations to help you blow past those limitations. And I am wishing everyone the best, and I look forward to more conversations like this. Please like, comment, subscribe, but especially comment, because if there is a concept that you would want to see me cover, I'll be happy to do so. So thank you, and until next time, star players.